frustrated man. I just spent, what was it, 5 hours searching through the internet for a fucking single picture. Old picture that I saw that I reblogged on Tumblr like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And I go searching through my old Tumblr archive, as well as the entire archive of another blog that I thought might have shared it. But in 5 hours of searching for it, I didn't find it, and I'm a very frustrated and very defeated man right now. Just this cute little picture, this cute goth girl just sitting there, looking all sweet, sticking her tongue out with her eyes closed. See, I just wanted to make a meme out of it, had this cool idea, but it's not gonna be perfect. This meme, it can work with a different picture. It could work, but it won't be perfect. It won't be that feeling that you get when you just, ooh, you make a nice meme. Nice memerino. I'm not gonna get that. I just don't get that, because my eyes aren't good enough. Let's move on to the video. Today, I'm talking about how I came to look the way that I look, right? And not just how I became goth, but how I developed my own personal style. But I'll start with how I became goth. So, really for me, it was something that was very natural, as it often is for us. All throughout my childhood, all my, deepest interests were spooky things, right? My favorite movie, well, two favorite movies growing up were, one was Harriet the Spy, not a particularly spooky film. The other was Little Vampires. And that sort of sparked my interest in vampires from then on. Also the fact that my name rhymes with Casper. I got into Casper the Friendly Ghost kind of by default. And so I've always, that appreciation for spooky stuff is pretty inherent in me from, childhood. Going on from there, throughout middle school, I grew up in I was in middle school in the late 2000s, in which goth was present, but it was not as accessible or prevalent as emo. And so I sort of grew up as knowing that emo is close to what I'm into, not really knowing much about what goth is, but knowing what emo is, and being alright with that. It's black clothing, it's spooky looking people. And so I sort of was a wannabe emo for a while, because I didn't really have the clothes to dress the part, and I was a little too young to really take it seriously in any way. And then my family moves from Pennsylvania to Arizona when I get into high school. And in high school, I met a guy named Nelson, and you may see him in one or a few of my videos at some point. He's now my best friend, has been since I moved here while I was going into 8th grade actually. I met him in 8th grade in art class. We bonded over the fact that we like to draw, and then we found that we have this deeper rooted interest in dark and spooky things. And so he was much more well-versed in the reality of goth than I was. And one day, he comes over to my house just to hang out. First time we've hung out outside of class. And he shows me a bunch of really cool stuff. He shows me some Marilyn Manson music videos, Cyclone 9 music videos. He was really into cybergoth, was his thing. That was never really where my interest lied, but this exposure to it, I'll never forget the day that he showed me the music video. This was the day that he showed me the music video of Parasitic by Cyclone 9, and I thought, this is fucking legitimately scary and unsettling to watch. I loved it. We're actually going to see Cyclone 9 in I think 7 days. Yeah, we're excited for that, boy. He got me into this. He sort of started educating me about, the music and the truth of the subculture. And then I sort of bloomed into this dark flower that I am now from there. My baby back years were hard and long. Starting in really ninth grade, I really started to try to dress the part. I would wear what black clothing I could. I didn't have a ton, and any clothes that I wanted, my parents always have made, when we were kids, if we wanted clothes, we had to work for them and buy them. If we wanted anything, we had to work for it and buy it. So I didn't have a ton of access to a whole bunch of dark clothes. I kind of, as a result, mixed my style a lot with like punk, just because I could make it work a little easier with what I had to work with. So I went quite a while with that sort of punky, gothy style. I tried to do makeup every once in a while. I failed at it every damn time. I could do eyeliner all right, but anytime I tried to do any face stuff aside from eyeliner, well, you'll see, it was a fucking catastrophe. Now, going into college was when I really, finally the air's kicking on, thank God. So, it's hot, it's still summertime in Arizona. I'm wearing this to display sort of what the look that I go for. This is not what I wore today. I wore a tank top and some fucking camo shorts because it's too damn hot. But yeah, this is kind of an illustration of the look that I go for now, at least. Going back to college. In college was when I really sort of bloomed. I'll put up some pictures of my college, early college age. I believe that was 2016 that I started college. And just the situation that I was in, the campus that I was on, I was really able to sort of dress more how I really wanted to. And I think some of the looks that I had back then were some of the best looks that I've ever had. This was also the time that I started to lift weights. So I was skinnier and had more of that like twiggy kind of skinny look. But not a twink by any means. So you'll see some pictures of that. And then basically the look that I went for in that time period. First of all, high school was started out as Mansonite kind of look, because I knew about goth rock and goth music and stuff, but I really was more interested in Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, that sort of thing. That was freshman year that was like that. Sophomore year, I got much more into real goth rock. Throughout this whole time, punk and a lot of show tunes as well. Rocky Horror was a massive inspiration for me. I got into real goth rock in about sophomore year of high school. And then that was when my look sort of started to mature a little bit and looked more like, oh, this is a goth, not just some weirdo who only had access to black clothing. And it was kind of more like middle of the road traditional goth. I've always had to be conservative with it just because, first of all, practicality, because it's so hot here. You can't always be dressed and, decked out and all kinds of crazy stuff. As well as, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. So I've always sort of had a more simple look that I've tried to go for while still maintaining that spooky sort of quality to it. College was sort of I got into a little bit of trad gothy aesthetic more so. That was the last era of my life that I wore tight-fitting jeans. After that, I decided, hey, I got big legs from all these squats that I do. I got a big ass from the deadlifts that I do. I can't really be squeezing into these slim fit jeans anymore. So I changed the fit of jeans that I wear, which, by the way, if you'd like to know the fit of jeans that I do wear, you might be able to see this somewhat well. There you go, yeah. Levi's 541s. For big muscular guys like us, well, like me, I don't know if everybody watching this is buff as I am. For big muscular guys with, you know, thick boys, 541 is the athletic fit, so it's basically for like football players, bodybuilders, stuff like that. So it's got a little more room in the butt, a little more room in the upper leg, and it tapers towards the bottom. Perfect fit for me, looks absolutely fantastic. I've never worn a better pair of jeans in my life than Levi's 541s. I love them, and I don't really fit in anything else, so I don't have much of a choice. So college was that sort of trad gothy. I still had short hair. That's when I started growing my hair out. Is in the beginning of college. I grew it out from a mohawk and sort of had to let the sides catch up, which was a difficult and somewhat irritating process, to say the least. But you know, as is always growing your hair out, for me it was quite worth it. I think I look damn good with long hair. Now, as to how to describe the look that I have now, I like to describe it as like trying to make people wonder if I might be a vampire. That's basically sort of the thing that I go for, right? I want, as I mentioned, vampires are like my number one shit. They've always been at the core of my aesthetic goals. You know, that sort of pale vampiric sort of aura. That's what I want to give off, right? That's the impression that I sort of want to give. And so I think that the long hair helps for that quite a bit nowadays with video, you know, movies like Interview with the Vampire and all. And I try to, when it's cooler out, remember, because I tank tops during the summer. Almost exclusively tank tops. It's too hot for anything else. But outside of the summer, which is the other, around here it's 6 months of the year is not summer. I like to wear a lot of button-down shirts. I like to wear a lot of sort of longer jackets, sort of a very casual, dialed back Victorian look. You know, so not like the super elaborate, decorative shit. Just, you know, like what I'm wearing right now. Plain black vest, plain gray button-down shirt. Nothing too fancy, nothing too special, but it gets the point across. And I find myself feeling that it like kind of flips it back on you, because you know, if you're going for a super detailed, like crazy, you know, wild aesthetic, that's one thing. That doesn't really work for my goals though, because my goal again is to make people wonder, hey, if there's a vampire I want them to think, if there's a vampire in this room right now, that guy, that's the vampire. So that's the kind of inspiration that I go for with this kind of thing. The other big sort of aesthetic that I go for is, in summary, Peter Steele, right? Peter Steele, if you guys don't know him, he's the singer, well, was the singer of Typo Negative, rest in peace. You know, big, tall, super tall, like 6'6". Big, tall, long-haired, long dark hair, muscular build, and that's generally what I go for. I'm not quite as tall. I'm tall, but I'm not quite as tall as him. He's just 6'6". I'm 6'2", so still, you know, a good bit above average. Not quite his height. Obviously, I'm not clean shaven like he usually is, because you can't really tell, but I don't have much of a chin, so I kind of have to have a little something going on there. But other than that, you know, his aesthetic was basically green and black, and that's a lot of what I go for. I'll show a few more pictures of that look, and that's sort of my third sort of, second sort of. So I have the vampire, and I have the Peter Steele sort of goals, and they come together very nicely quite often because Peter Steele had a sort of vampiric look, and that is how I came to my personal style. So you know, that's just a sort of base level explanation of it. There's a lot of influences in it. Martin Gore of Depeche Mode, big stylistic influence. Robert Smith, his sort of more simple looks I really liked. As I mentioned, Rocky Horror Picture Show has always been, you know, an inspiration, if not an influence, at least an inspiration for my aesthetic. So things like that are sort of where I get it all from. So that's the end of my little story about my look. Please, if you guys have any particular, you know, influences that you try to incorporate that are, you know, rather unique, I'd love to hear about it. Aside from that, that is the end of my video. Thank you very much for watching.